Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The search for unmarked graves began at Canada's oldest and longest running residential school today. It was announced during a press conference, and APTN's Elena McDougall was there.
The Survivors Secretariat from the Mohawk Institute has been working with a joint task force to organize a search of the grounds of the former residential school. And today, ground-penetrating radar began.
Before we could start the GPR search today, the police task force assisted us by laying out the grids that will be followed by the searchers. As noted, we have trained community members to operate the machines, and we have 2 teams on site today.
The first search will last 1 week, and a complete search plan will be finalized while other search areas are prepared over the winter. According to the Secretariat, all efforts related to the search must be led by survivors. Dawn Hill, Turtle Clan from Six Nations, attended with her family from 1957 to 1961.
That this was really important to us, that all of a sudden we're in the forefront. They're keeping us informed. They're not hiding things from us. And that it's something that gives us more of a peace of mind that things are going to happen. And as you can see today, they are happening.
On the issue of keeping survivors informed, Kim Murray, executive lead of the Secretariat, said survivors are waiting for records.
We know that the TRC did not collect all the records from the federal government. We know that the TRC did not collect all the records from the Anglican Church. And we certainly know that the TRC did not collect the records that are from the New England Company, which had involvement with this particular residential school.
The search is an ongoing police investigation. 2 ground-penetrating machines are searching the area in grids. An Ontario Provincial Police Searchmaster is assisting. Currently, only the Mohawk Institute has requested coroner resources in Ontario. Dirk Heyer, Ontario's chief coroner, is working with the Secretariat, and he says survivors from other residential schools can seek coroner assistance.
We're open to having those conversations, and then we will figure out how we will work together and then align the resources as necessary based upon what the plans are for that particular community and the survivors.
500 acres are associated with the Mohawk Institute, which was government-funded and church-run for 136 years. Police could not confirm how long the search will take, and a criminal investigation into whatever may be found could take years to complete. Elena McDougall, APTN National News, Six Nations of the Grand River Territory.
Thanks, Elena. The National Indian Residential School Crisis Line is available for survivors and others who might need support. That number is 1-866-925-4419. Well, today marks 14 years since the remains of a young First Nations woman in the Yukon were discovered. Since then, no one has been charged with her murder. Now the Yukon RCMP are asking the public for help in cracking her case. Here's Sarah Connors with that story.
Angel Carlick was described as a caring person with a bright future ahead of her. The 19-year-old Casca woman was from Dease Lake in northern BC. She later moved to Whitehorse, where she was a youth advocate who ran a dinner program where she cooked meals for children. Her uncle William Carlick says she was always happy.
The last time I saw her was we went down to the place she was working downtown. She was cooking up and she was serving soup to my mother and myself when we went to visit her. And she was happy then too.
Carlick went missing in May of 2007. She was last seen walking away from Main Street in Whitehorse. Her remains were found 6 months later on November 9th on a mountain. Her death was ruled a homicide. Tragically, her mother, a missing and murdered Indigenous woman and girls advocate, Wendy Carlick, was also murdered in 2017. Wendy's accused murderer is now in jail awaiting trial. William says he copes with their deaths through ceremony and by accepting that he has no control over what's happened.
Just understand that, we had time to share with them, and then when they leave, whichever way it happens, we just got to continue, because one day we're going to make that journey too.
14 years to the day Carlick's remains were found, no one has been charged with her murder. It's prompted the Yukon RCMP's Historical Case Unit to ask the public's assistance in solving her case. Michael Simpson is an investigator for the Historical Case Unit. He says Carlick was spotted with two males who might hold the clues as to what happened to her.
Never have figured out who those two males are, and I think they would hold the answers, or at least be able to begin telling me where to look next.
Simpson says with no evidence like witnesses, DNA profiles, or camera footage, Carlick's case has been difficult to solve.
And unfortunately, sometimes, despite all our best efforts, moving the file forward to a point where you could lay charges is just really difficult in some cases.
Despite this, he still encourages anyone who might know something to come forward.
And hopefully bring this matter from my end to justice, but we need the public's assistance to do that, and don't forget about it.
Though there's never been any justice for Carlick, her uncle says traditional pursuits help him move forward.
For us, we just find a way to move on and deal with it, in a good way, and try to find strength where we could.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Well, if you have any information that may assist in Angel Carlick's investigation, please contact Yukon RCMP's M Division Historical Case Unit. You can call them at 867-667-5550 or email at mdiv, that's mdiv.communications@rcmp.grc.gc.ca. A judicial review hearing wrapped up in Manitoba today over a multi-million-dollar flood protection project. A group of First Nations in the area say the provincial government has failed in its duty to consult on a portion of the Lake Manitoba and the Lake St. Martin Outlet Channels project. The Tribal Council says the province issued a permit in 2019 to start clearing Crown land for an all-season road. They did that without advising nearby communities. They want the decision allowing the access road permit to be reconsidered and for the court to evaluate the province's duty to consult before issuing permits that allow Crown land to be cleared.
You know what, we said it right from the get-go. We're not trying to stop the process. We want to be a part of the process, and it's not too late to start that process with us. There's several communities involved in what's going on here, and it impacts each and every one of us differently, but we're all impacted by what's going on here.
This $540 million channel project intends to prevent a massive 2011 type flood in the region that left many First Nations residents displaced for years and cost billions of dollars. Though some question if the outlet plan will even work, while others worry about potential impacts on fish and wildlife in the Interlake region. Well, we'd like to hear what you think about this or any other story. Here's how you can continue the conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on our website. That's aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. First Nations leaders in Northern Ontario are calling on the provincial government to come to settle a long-standing treaty dispute. The Robinson-Huron Treaty has a clause with annuity payments that could increase, where the payments could increase over time, but they've been stuck at $4 per person for almost 150 years. In a decision last week, an Ontario appeal court agrees it's time for the Crown to negotiate a new agreement. The Trudeau government is willing to do so, but Ontario has not ruled out further litigation. Northern leaders held a press conference in Sudbury this morning to address the issue.
We know it is time now for the government of Ontario to embrace the reality, to embrace the facts, to embrace our history, and also to embrace the rule of law.
The majority of 3 judges strongly urged the parties to negotiate a modern agreement for the implementation of the treaty, finding that this is more likely to produce a strong, renewed treaty relationship, and stating that true reconciliation will not be achieved in the courtroom.
Time now to step aside for a quick break. Still to come, improving infant and maternal care in the NWT. Stay with us. Welcome back. Booster shots of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine are safe and effective for all adults. That's the word today from Health Canada, the agency approving the booster for Canadians 18 and older. Though experts say if you're not currently in a priority group, you won't be getting a needle anytime soon.
It's going to shift in the next few weeks and months. And what Health Canada is saying is that when we get to the point that we want to extend it to all adults, that's safe to do.
The timing of the Pfizer booster has been approved as 6 months after an adult's second shot. Health Canada says for those 18 and older, it is a regular dose of the current vaccine. British Columbia has seen a record number of deadly overdoses from illicit drugs in the first 9 months of this year. The province's chief coroner says more than 1,500 people died between January and September. That's the highest number of overdose deaths in BC in that time period. It's also a 24% increase over the same time last year. More than 2/3 of the victims are between the ages of 30 and 59. BC's Minister of Mental Health and Addiction says the pandemic is playing a role in the province's spike in drug toxicity.
When COVID hit and the pandemic measures, as the coroner has pointed out and the public health officer has pointed out, border closures and physical distancing and people being more isolated and under more pressure has led to a terrible spike in drug toxicity, as documented by the coroner, and a terrible additional loss of life. More people using drugs alone. And I'll point that out from the coroner's report today. 56% of people that died of drug overdose died alone and in their own homes.
And Sheila Malcolmson, who you saw there, says the province is continuing to invest in publicly funded beds, overdose prevention, and decriminalization sites. A group in the Northwest Territories has been advocating for better care and options for expecting parents and those who may be grieving the loss of a baby. Our reporter Charlotte Moore-Jacobs looks into an Indigenous-focused program to train birth workers in remote communities.
If you live in a remote community and you're pregnant north of 60, there's a good chance you'll have to leave home to give birth. But the Northern Birth Work Collective is hoping to change that and address the gaps in infant and maternal care.
This past summer, we ended up training 8 to 10 birth workers through the Ziggy Twin Indigenous Birthwork Training from Manitoba. So that was really great. And so just to build capacity. And now
Project Director Sabrina Flack says birth workers are trained to provide emotional and spiritual support to families.
There is the physical support piece, so nothing medical, but comfort measures to help navigate various things like labor and birth, but also perhaps abortion. And there is also the advocacy piece, so definitely helping clients to facilitate conversations with their care providers and making sure they're getting all of their questions answered and all of their needs met.
The not-for-profit group is a little over a year old and comprised of birth workers and community members advocating for reproductive health and safer, more supportive programming for pregnant people. Research lead Dega Scott says they're looking at ways to mitigate the lack of consistent prenatal care.
But then knowing that they're still going to have to eventually come to Yellowknife, because we're not going to be quite there yet anytime soon when people are able to have community births again, but also knowing that they will have that support system in their community and have that support system in Yellowknife or Inuvik. And there will be people that are able to communicate and provide that continuity of care.
So she's working on the creation of a Northern Indigenous birthwork training program. That 12-week program is expected to launch spring of 2023. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
A one-woman play opens in Vancouver tomorrow night, and as APTN's Tina House reports, the inspiration behind the play is one of the most prolific poets and performers of her time.
Pauline Johnson is one of the most notable performers in North America in the early 19th century. Born March 10, 1861 on the Six Nations Reserve in Ontario, she came from mixed Mohawk and European ancestry. She was known as the poetic princess of the Mohawks and traveled extensively sharing her poems, stories, and musical talent. She eventually settled in Vancouver, where she was very close to many Coast Salish peoples. She famously documented their legends and stories. She passed away in 1913, but her legacy is well known.
My forest brave, my redskin love, farewell.
And now, actress Sherry Miracle is starring in this one-woman play called Paddle Song, about Pauline's life at the Fire Hall Theatre.
My respect for Pauline is just flown through the roof being here. And I know that she had an affinity, a love for Vancouver and West Coast people, in particular Joe Capilano and his wife Mary Agnes. They really welcomed her. Particularly, she struck up a friendship with him when they were over in England, and they asked her to come and interpret for these West Coast natives that had arrived to talk to King Henry VII about everything that was happening at home and how they needed some changes made.
Miracle, who's also Mohawk, has been acting since she was 11 and has starred in numerous theater and TV productions throughout her career. She says playing Pauline is a dream come true because her influence is still felt today.
She spoke for Indigenous rights, women's rights, children's rights. She was a trailblazer. She was enigmatic. She was gutsy. I mean, she traversed this countryside over and over again, just she and her stage partner, which back then was really rare. She was a household name in her time.
The play has been in development since 2009 and had its world premiere in 2016, and now will be brought to the Fire Hall Theatre for a 10-day run. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Time for another quick break, but stick around. We've got an amazing light show for you coming up. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. This is Salchi, and he is a 7-year-old Shepherd Rot mix and was adopted at 6 months old by our viewer Valerie. Salchi is pictured here dressed up as a painter during some home renos. Looks like an adorable helper. You can come help me, Salchi. Send us your photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east coast, 9 with showers for Halifax and Charlottetown. 3 below with snow in Kuujjuaq, 2 below and snow in Nain. 10 in Montreal, snow and 3 in Chibougamau. Sunny and 10 for Sault Ste. Marie, showers and 8 in North Bay. 6 and partly cloudy in Thunder Bay, 3 in Sioux Lookout. 0 for God's Lake, Norway House, and the Paw. Snow and +3 in Winnipeg, +1 with snow in Dauphin. 4 above with showers in Regina, a rain-snow mix, and 6 in Saskatoon. Snow and 5 below for Uranium City and Stony Rapids. In northern Alberta, snow and -2 for Fort McMurray, -1 in Grand Prairie. +4 and a cloudy day in Edmonton, 6 in Lethbridge. Rain and 9 for Vancouver, Tofino, and Campbell River. +4 at the sun out in Prince George, -4 with snow in Dease Lake. Minus 14 in Old Crow, 6 below in Whitehorse. Minus 6 with snow for Yellowknife, Trout Lake, Fort Liard, and Fort Simpson. 6 below in Sax Harbor with snow, 11 below in Fort McPherson. Minus 15 in Baker Lake, 22 below in Cambridge Bay. Snow, and minus 20 in Resolute, minus 15 in Joe Haven. A statue of a female hockey player has been unveiled near the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's to highlight the gender gap that persists within the sport.
It's about conversation and representation and visibility, and how do we continue to talk about changing the culture of the sport.
The statue was commissioned by Budweiser Canada and the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association. It shows a girl with braids cheering on her team with a slogan that says, "This game is for us all." It will be up until November 15th. And I guess the gender gap just ends. Last week, you could see an impressive displays of the Northern Lights in almost every part of the country. But above the Arctic Circle, that was really a show. This video was shot in Arctic Bay, Nunavut, 73 degrees north in latitude and home to almost 900 people. This time of year, Arctic Bay has 24-hour darkness. But with a view like this, who would complain? The reason we all saw more northern lights than usual last week, a strong geomagnetic storm extended the range and intensity of the lights. Beautiful. Blake Desjardins is breaking a number of glass ceilings as the new Member of Parliament for Edmonton-Griesbach. Desjardins was elected in the recent federal election and is the only Indigenous Member of Parliament from Alberta and will be the first openly Two-Spirit member of the House of Commons. Tonight on a new episode of Face to Face, Desjardins tells us why he decided to run for political office.
Growing up, I felt pretty privileged to have the opportunity I did to hear the language, my mom's first language, to go on those hunting trips, to go fishing, to pull a net. I think they're one of the greatest times of my life. So that's largely what motivated me to become part of politics, was to protect that way of life, to be part of the next generation, being able to retain that unique identity, that unique skill, and those unique stories of our ancestors, because they make us who we are. And we're nothing but the combination of our elders' sacrifices.
You can watch our entire interview with Blake Desjardins in just about 2 minutes' time, and it's a good one. Before we go tonight, I just want to shout out my high school friend, Catherine Benson, for beating me this amazing poppy. Thanks, Catherine. That is all the time we have for your APTN National News this Tuesday. For news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. And don't forget to join us live tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for In Focus. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Face to Face is next. Have a great night.